a 34-year-old hermit gets hit by a truck, waking up as Rudius, a baby in a foreign land. He remembers everything from his previous life and figures he must be in a rural European village. That is, until his mother, Zenith, uses magic to heal him. Now it makes sense why his dad, Paul, practices swordsmanship every day. He's in a totally different world. At age 2, he decides to try and learn magic himself. Finding a book on it, he takes a year to learn how to read and finds out he can use magic without incantations, using his knowledge of video games to aid him. After practicing and increasing his abilities, he decides it's time to try intermediate magic, accidentally destroying a part of the house and alerting his parents. They decide to hire him a tutor, Roxy, who isn't too thrilled about teaching a kid so young, not believing his parents. But when he gets distracted during an incantation, she learns that he can cast without them, becoming jealous, though recognizing his potential. As for Rudius, he has a second chance and promises himself he won't waste it as he did in his previous life. Practicing earth magic and passing out, he remembers how he threw it all away to save some kids. Maybe it wasn't that useless. After 6 months, he can use intermediate magic with no problem. During a lesson, Rudius learns that Roxy is a demon. That's why his parents were surprised to see her. There's a demon race, the Superherd, who has been feared for the past 400 years. Sometimes her hair is mistaken as green, like the Superherd's. After a year and a half, they celebrate his 5th birthday. Apparently, they only celebrate every 5 years. He receives a real sword from his dad, a new book from his mom, and a wand from Roxy. But she's afraid there's nothing more she can teach him about magic, so the next day, she plans on holding his graduation ceremony. Being bullied in his previous life left him with a crippling fear of going outside. Rudius becomes terrified when Roxy tells him they must leave town for the ceremony. But when he realizes the villagers aren't looking at him, but greeting Roxy, his anxiety is put at ease. She shows him the strongest water spell she can cast, accidentally hitting their horse with a bolt of lightning. No wonder they had to leave town. Rudius replicates her saint-level spell, successfully graduating, though he isn't ready to say goodbye to the person who got him to go outside after 20 years. His parents are relieved that he's going outside now. They thought he was sickly, never crying as a baby, or doing most things regular kids do. He notices 3 kids ganging up on another and decides to save him, remembering all the times the same thing happened to him. While trying to help him clean up, Rudius notices his green hair, reminding him of Roxy's story of the Superherd's, who have green hair and a red gem on their forehead. He's relieved at the absence of a gem. Rudius decides to befriend and teach magic to the kid, who introduces himself as Sylph. He's proud of himself for sticking up for someone. But when he gets home, his dad isn't too happy that he allegedly gave one of the bullies a black eye. He continues teaching Sylph for the next 6 months when he wonders how to use incantationless casting, finding out he's not as special as he thought. When they go to take a bath after getting caught in the rain, Rudius discovers that Sylph is actually Sylphiette, only to make things worse by admitting he thought she was a boy the whole time. Some time goes by before she approaches Rudius, and the two make up. Paul and Zenith are excited when they find out she's pregnant, which is short-lived when Lilia, the maid, finds out she's pregnant too. Paul immediately admits it's most likely his. It's decision time. If Lilia has to travel back to her hometown with a newborn, they might not make it. Rudius decides to take the initiative and place all the blame on Paul, so that Zenith does too. Lilia used to be afraid of Rudius, but takes a liking to him after he lies to help her and her baby out, and she becomes a part of the family. Now, Rudius has 2 little sisters. The topic of school comes up, and Rudius considers it, since he hasn't been making progress in swordsmanship or magic, but Sylphiette doesn't want him to leave. One day, he receives a letter from Roxy, urging him to go to Renoa Magic Academy. He asks his parents whether he could take Sylphiette. The family doesn't have enough money to send them both, so Rudius figures it's time to get a job. A friend of the family, Ghislaine, arrives soon after, and Paul ends up knocking Rudius out. he wakes up in a cart with Ghislaine without any idea of what's going on. She throws him a letter that his father wrote. Apparently, he's being sent to teach magic to another child for the next 5 years. The letter also tells him not to return home or contact Sylphiette, as she's been hindering his development. Arriving in Roa, he meets Philip Boreas Greyrat, the mayor, and his father's cousin. He had no clue he had family with such high standing, nor does he know he'll be teaching Philip's daughter, who beats him up during their first meeting. Now it makes sense that nobody wants to teach her. So Rudius comes up with a plan to stage a kidnapping and show Eris how useful magic can be. The kidnappers are a little too good at their job. She's still hostile to Rudius, who plans to leave her behind if she refuses to cooperate. They escape and make their way back to Roa, though it turns out the kidnapping wasn't as staged as they planned. After he rescues her instead of taking the scoundrel's bribe, she begrudgingly accepts him as a tutor. Philip is grateful, but cautions him against revealing his family ties due to the political landscape. It's official, his first job. Ghislaine takes up his swordsmanship training, while Rudius teaches her and Eris how to use magic, and how to read, write, and do arithmetic. But not long after, Eris starts acting up again, so he decides to give her a day off. Once in a while won't hurt, and they all go to town for the day. A merchant tries to sell him an aphrodisiac, as he attempts to figure out the market price of general goods and convert it into yen. After Rudius refuses to let Eris buy him a book, he decides to get her an allowance. She finally starts paying attention in class after getting regular time off, and she buys him a present with her new allowance. Eris' 10th birthday is fast approaching. As a noble, she needs to learn how to dance. Giving up a few lessons a week to her dance teacher, Rudius finally has some free time of his own. He decides to learn new languages, but finds Demon God especially difficult. Apparently, dance instructions aren't going so well, so the teacher asks Rudius to convince Eris to return to classes. His free time is short-lived as he gets sucked into helping with dance practice. Rudius begins selling some of the figurines he's learning to make using earth magic for some extra money. One day, he receives a package from Roxy. Since he's still having trouble figuring out the demon god language, she handwrites a textbook for him. Roxy's new student is obsessed with her and ends up getting his hands on one of Rudius' Roxy figurines. At Eris' 10th birthday party, she embarrasses herself during her first dance. Nobles aren't supposed to have 2 left feet, so Rudius ends up stepping in and uses her swordsmanship training. Using feints keeps her from fainting. Rudius gives both Eris and Ghislaine wands as a present, though she's more excited about receiving a ring from Ghislaine. He accidentally interrupts her grandfather, Soros, with a maid. He points out a giant red orb in the sky, though tells him not to worry about it. It only gets bigger over time. Rudius overhears planning for his surprise 10th birthday party. He learns why they can't be too public about his presence. It isn't Paul's reputation, but his name. They gathered the best materials in the kingdom to make a staff for his birthday. He's disappointed that his family couldn't come, finding out that there's been an increase in monster activity lately. Eris's mom breaks down, saying she'll adopt him. No, he should marry her daughter. Philip explains that his sons were adopted by his brother, so his wife hated him until now. But if he so chooses, Philip will handle the coup, and all he needs to do is marry Eris. She waits for Rudius in his room that night, but he goes a bit too far, and she pushes him away. He apologizes. She forgives him and makes a promise to wait until his 15th birthday. Back in his hometown, his father is busy fighting monsters, while a strange mana cloud appears in the sky. Rudius takes Eris and Ghislaine out of the city to show them his strongest spell using his new staff. When they're attacked, it's someone named Almanfi, allegedly sent by the legendary hero Perugius Dola to find the source of the disturbance. Ghislaine reveals she's a sword king while protecting and vouching for him. Suddenly, there's a giant flash of blue light. Rudius holds on to Eris as they're enveloped. Rudius wakes up in a strange liminal space, looking like his past self. A mysterious white figure introduces himself as the man god and offers to help after watching him for a while. He's relieved to find he's still alive in the new world and not dead again. Apparently, he's now stranded on the demon continent. The man god tells him that when he wakes up, there will be a man there. He just has to rely on him and help him no matter what. He wakes to find a man with green hair and something red in the center of his forehead. At first, he's wary, but when he speaks demon god, the man is taken aback at how courteous Rudius is, admitting that it would be rude to fear the man who saved them. Introducing himself as Ruigerd Superdia, he swears to protect the children while helping them get back home. Eris wakes up terrified when she sees him, but she comes around after some convincing. They come across a village, though the children are too suspicious, barring their entry. Ruigerd gets him to speak with the chief, which he does telepathically. When the chief notices the necklace Rudius is wearing, he mentions Roxy's name. The man who originally turned them away freaks out. Apparently, Roxy is his daughter, and he hasn't seen her in 20 years. They're allowed entry into the village and explain how they came to be on the demon continent. The chief is worried about Ruigerd escorting them, since Superds aren't allowed in cities. He responds that he'll just kill everyone in the city if that's the case. He becomes angry when Rudius asks if it's true they turned on their allies in the war. Ruigerd explains how the demon god, Laplace, gave his tribe cursed spears during the war 400 years ago, turning Superds into cold-blooded killers who slaughtered their own families in their insanity. As the leader of the tribe, it's his duty to clear their names. Rudius promises he'll do whatever it takes to help. Eris is ecstatic that she's not helpless now, using the sword Roxy's parents gifted them to help on the road. But their happiness soon drains away when they see the security at the first demon city they arrive at. They're on the lookout for Dead End, which turns out to be Ruigerd's nickname. Rudius gets the idea of dyeing his hair blue and giving him Roxy's necklace to disguise him as a member of the Magurdia tribe. They decide to join the Adventurers Guild to make some money and put on a show, announcing Ruigerd as Dead End and using it as their party name so nobody takes it seriously. Rudius figures that if they start doing good deeds under the party name Dead End, the news will spread, lessening people's fears of the Superds. He's visited by the man god in his dreams again, who tells him to accept the low-ranking quest to find a lost cat. The next day, using his third eye, Ruigerd easily finds the place they're looking for. The cat is a bit bigger than they assumed at the outset. The kitty kidnappers are easily restrained with earth magic. Before getting answers out of them, Ruigerd decapitates one after he kicks Rudius. They argue over killing people, regardless of whether they're evil, since they're trying to promote a good image. The other kidnappers explain how they're adventurers who wait until someone posts a job to return their pets and collect the reward. This confirms Ruigerd's suspicions, though he gets frustrated when the kids stop him a second time. Instead of killing them, Rudius decides to use the kidnappers' higher rank in the guild to get tougher jobs. Roxy travels to Roa, looking for Rudius, and becomes relieved when she doesn't find his or his family's names on the death list. Paul writes a letter to let him know that he and his sister Norn are alive, but it never reaches his son. Meanwhile, Dead End searches for a mysterious monster lurking in a forest. They see a party of 3 younger demons they've encountered before, arguing with another party. It seems they're all looking for the same beast. When they look for it on their own, Ruigerd stops the group, as he's worried about the demon children, so they agree to follow them, just in case. Rudius stops Ruigerd from stepping in again when the party is attacked by 2 monsters at once, thinking it would be best to save them and bolster their names. But his intentions don't match reality, as one of the demon children is killed immediately. No amount of healing magic would save him now. Ruigerd berates Rudius for holding him back and letting a child die. The other demons defend him by accepting the blame. They knew the risks, and they took them anyway. It wasn't their job to save them. Ruigerd apologizes and acknowledges them as warriors. After walking the kids to the edge of the forest, they hear the sound of another monster, only to find another party dead. They never stood a chance. It was too late to save them, though they avenge their death by killing the giant serpent. Back in the city, one of the guild members calls them out for working with another group to take on tougher jobs and blackmails them. Noticing Rudius about to lose it, intending to kill the demon to protect Eris, Ruijerd washes the dye out of his hair, threatening their blackmailer. After being found out, he quickly leaves town before the guards catch him for being a soup-herd. The three meet up on the outskirts, and Ruijerd admits that he finally understands what Rudius has been trying to do and acknowledges him as a warrior. Instead of arguing after the fact, the three agree to hold meetings before making big decisions. They make their way to the coast, while Roxy and two of Paul's former traveling companions arrive by boat in search of survivors. Thank you for listening until the end. Subscribe for more videos like this.